Max Donovan cursed as sparks exploded from the rusted console. His coffee mug tumbled in zero gravity, splattering brown droplets across the cramped cockpit of his old freight hauler. The rust bucket, true to her name, groaned as if she had finally had enough. "Come on, sweetheart," Max muttered, floating upside down to pry open a jammed access panel. Not now. Through the reinforced viewport, twisted streaks of light marked their hyperspace passage. Something was wrong. The nav system was throwing errors, the kind that made experienced captains sweat. Max grabbed the plasma wrench and smacked the faulty relay. He'd patched this ship together more times than he could count, running cargo routes for barely enough credits to survive. Just 3 more runs, he kept telling himself. 3 more, and he could finally afford real parts. The hyperspace drive hiccuped. Reality twisted. Max's stomach tried to crawl through his spine as the rust bucket slammed back into normal space, like a stone skipping across water. Alarms blared. The cockpit bathed in red light. Outside his viewport, instead of empty space, a chrome and crystal luxury liner filled the view, towering, elegant, and growing closer fast. Max shouted and fired the maneuvering thrusters. They coughed, wheezed, and slowed him just enough. Tractor beams locked onto the rust bucket, dragging it into a docking bay like a fish in a net. "You have violated restricted space. Prepare for boarding," came a cold voice over the COMM's. Max sighed. "Look, this is Captain Max Donovan of the rust bucket. Nav failure. I'm not looking for trouble. You've found it anyway. Prepare for inspection." 20 minutes later, Max stood surrounded by security officers in the liner's pristine docking bay. He looked like an oil smudge on polished silver. The security chief, a woman with a voice like a slap, glared at him. "Nav failure," Max explained. "Hyperspace hiccup. Not a threat unless you count my coffee machine." She didn't smile. "You've entered a diplomatic convoy during a classified mission." Before she could finish, the ship trembled beneath their feet. Not engine vibration. Worse. Max felt it in his bones. "Report," the chief barked into her comm. "Multiple contacts. Armed vessels. Pirate formation. They're broadcasting demands." The voice cut off. Another impact rocked the ship. "Pirates," the chief hissed. "They followed the convoy." She turned to her officers. "Battle stations. Secure civilian zones." "What about him?" one asked, motioning to Max. "Lock him." The lights cut out. Emergency red lighting flickered on, and the hull trembled again. Through the bay's transparent shielding, Max saw the flash of weapons fire in the black. The Celestial Crown was under full-scale attack. Hull breach, Deck 7. Emergency protocols initiated. The security chief grabbed Max's arm. "You said you're a pilot." "I've kept ships flying with duct tape and spite," Max said. "Good. Civilians are trapped on Deck 7, Section Charlie. Get them out." She shoved a portable comm unit into his hand. Max didn't argue. He'd seen enough in his time to know when survival trumped protocol. He sprinted for the nearest lift. The Celestial Crown shuddered around him like a wounded animal. Even in emergency lighting, Max could see the extravagant crystal chandeliers, polished wood, velvet inlays. This ship was a floating palace, and someone was trying to tear it apart. Deck 7 greeted him with chaos. Smoke, fire, sparks falling from ruptured conduits. The hallway looked like it had survived a bombing. "Help," a voice called faintly. Max turned, climbing over debris. The opulence of the crown made things worse. Luxury furnishings had turned into deadly shrapnel. He found the source of the cry inside what had once been a lavish suite. The ceiling had partially collapsed. Gilded frames and broken gems littered the floor. Under a massive steel support beam lay a woman. Max froze. Purple skin, not bruised, but smooth and glowing. Silver hair shimmered in the emergency lighting. Her body, curved and impossibly beautiful, was barely concealed by an outfit that looked more ceremonial than protective. She was bleeding and pinned beneath metal. Hey. Max scrambled toward her. Hey, can you hear me? Golden eyes fluttered open. Her lips moved in a language like music. Then she switched to broken standard, double quotes, please, ... move. Max quickly examined the support. The beam had fallen at an angle, creating a pocket just big enough to keep her alive for now. But it was settling, and once it did, she wouldn't be. Okay, he said, firing up his plasma cutter. Stay still. I'm going to get you out. Her lip trembled, but she nodded. The cutter flared, slicing into the metal. Max worked with speed and precision. He'd done this before hull repairs, breaching salvage doors. But never was someone's life literally beneath his hands. What's your name? He asked, partly to distract her. Erin, she whispered. Princess Erin, of Candia. Max raised an eyebrow. Of course you are, because my day wasn't complicated enough. She almost smiled. Okay, princess. When I say move, roll. Left fast. She nodded, blood staining her teeth. Double quotes. 1, ... 2, ... 3. He heaved. The beam rose just enough. Erin rolled. Max dropped the beam behind her. She gasped, her skin pale. You're alive? Max said, breathless, barely, but alive. Because of you, she whispered. Max didn't reply. He was too busy listening to the groaning ship and the sound of more explosions in the distance. He reached down, offered her a hand. Come on, princess. Time to find out if this story gets worse, or a lot more interesting. Max and Erin stumbled through the half-lit corridor, her arms slung over his shoulders as he supported most of her weight. The ship shook around them, sirens wailing, but Max barely noticed. His focus was on keeping the strange, beautiful woman beside him upright. You okay? He asked, glancing at her face. Erin nodded weakly. I will survive. Her voice was strong despite the pain. Max admired that. They ducked through a partially collapsed bulkhead as an explosion rocked the celestial crown again. The sound of distant weapon fire vibrated through the floors, echoing the urgency in Max's gut. Behind them, a damaged plasma conduit flared and exploded. Without thinking, Max threw himself over Erin, shielding her from the blast. Shrapnel tore through his jacket, but he didn't let go until the corridor fell silent again. She looked up at him, eyes wide. You, ... you shielded me. I'm full of bad decisions today, Max muttered, helping her up again. They reached a medical checkpoint, where a team of medics rushed to them. One took Erin gently from Max's arms and placed her on a stretcher. She's stable, the lead, Medec said after scanning her. Minor lacerations, low blood pressure, but she'll be fine. Max nodded and sagged against the wall, suddenly aware of the cuts on his own arms. Adrenaline was wearing off as they began wheeling Erin away, her golden eyes locked onto his. Max. Yeah, do not leave. He gave her a tired smile. Wouldn't dream of it, princess. 3 hours later, the pirates were gone. The convoy's escort ships had driven them off, but not without cost. The celestial crown had sustained heavy damage, and dozens were injured. Max had spent those hours in the guts of the ship helping restore power. He was elbow-deep in a fried junction when someone tapped his shoulder. He turned to see a man in a spotless uniform. Every inch the highborn officer Max had expected to find on a luxury liner. I'm Captain Morrison, the man, said commander of the Celestial Crown. You're Max Donovan. Max stood and wiped grease on his jumpsuit. That's me. You saved the princess's life. I wanted to thank you personally. I just did what anyone would have done, but they didn't. You did. Morrison gave a subtle nod. She's asked to see you. Max blinked. She. Did you was, ... rather insistent. The medical bay looked like a spa more than an infirmary. Soft lighting, plush beds, everything expensive and pristine. Erin lay in the center of it all, radiant, even in a medical gown. She sat upright when Max entered, her golden eyes lighting up. "You came, you asked." Max hesitated by the door, suddenly aware of how dirty and exhausted he looked. Erin motioned for the nurse to leave, then turned to Max with surprising seriousness. "Max Donovan, by the sacred laws of Candia, by the traditions of my people, I owe you a life bond. You saved me when all hope was lost." Max raised an eyebrow. "A life bond? I offer you my life, my loyalty, and my body, for as long as you wish. I am yours now. To command, to protect, to please." Max's brain stopped. "Wait, what?" Erin stood. The gown slipped slightly off one shoulder, revealing smooth purple skin. "I belong to you now. It is law. Law." Max backed a step. "Hold on. You're talking about what, exactly?" "I offer myself freely. You may take me now, or later. I am trained in 17 arts of pleasure and 4 forms of combat. I will serve you as mate, protector, and consort." Max choked. You don't have to do that. I didn't save you for ... that. But you did save me. That is what matters." Captain Morrison stepped in at that moment and saw the scene. Halfway to panic, Erin halfway out of her gown. "Oh no," Morrison sighed. "She invoked the bond." "She did," Max exclaimed. "What does that mean?" Morrison looked uncomfortable. "Candian law. When one of their royals is saved from certain death, they offer a sacred bond, a total offering of themselves. And if I say no," Morrison winced, "it would cause ... serious offense, diplomatic fallout, possibly even war." Max groaned. "So what? I'm stuck with her." "She's not a prisoner," Morrison said diplomatically. "Think of it as gaining a royal companion." Erin stepped closer, her gown clinging to her. "I will not shame my people by breaking tradition, but I also will not force you. I will prove myself worthy of your acceptance." "I need time," Max said, running a hand through his hair. "Then, I will wait," she said softly. "And while I wait, I will serve." Max stared at her, at the woman who'd nearly died in his arms, who now stood before him, beautiful and unshaken, offering everything because of some alien code of honor. He didn't understand it. Not yet. But something in her eyes told him it wasn't just duty. There was something else. Something real. And for the first time in a long time, Max felt the strange pull of something he'd forgotten how to want connection. Max Donovan wasn't sure how to navigate royal customs, especially ones that involved pledging your life and body to a princess you barely knew. He sat in the lavish lounge of the Celestial Crown, still greasy and worn, while Erin pored over datapads filled with human customs, rituals, and oddly enough, dating advice. "Why are you reading this?" Max asked, raising an eyebrow. "Human courtship rituals," Erin replied, her golden eyes bright with curiosity. "Your species mating customs are fascinatingly complex. Some humans pretend disinterest to gauge commitment. Others mistake honesty for manipulation." Max nearly laughed. "So, you're trying to learn how to play hard to get?" Erin tilted her head. "Would that help you accept the bond?" Max groaned. "Please, no games. I barely understand you as it is." Erin smiled, closing the datapad. "Candian culture values directness. It is honest and attractive. But I see now, human males prefer the chase the dance." Max leaned back, rubbing his face. "I'm a simple man. No time for dancing. But I have time," she said softly. "I want to show you what it means to be bonded not by law, but by choice." Over the following days, Erin stayed close. She adapted to human ways, trying on clothes that covered more skin, while still accentuating her natural beauty. Max found himself both exasperated and enchanted by her candidness. One afternoon, they visited Nexus Station together, sprawling hub where countless species mingled. Erin attracted every gaze, her purple skin and silver hair setting her apart. Men stared openly, while women's eyes flashed warning. When a group of traders began harassing a young alien woman, Erin's demeanor changed instantly. She stepped between them, voice low and commanding. "The female has refused your advances. Honor requires you withdraw." The traders sneered. One reached for the woman, but Erin struck swiftly, disabling him with precise pressure point strikes. Max watched, impressed. "I had no idea you were trained in combat." Erin's smile was sly. "Combat is one of many arts. Weakness is not an option." Later, as they walked through the bustling concourse, Erin caught Max's hand. "Do you understand why the bond matters?" Max looked into her golden eyes, so fierce and vulnerable at once. "I think I'm starting to." But, as their time together deepened, the danger looming over Erin became more urgent. Pirates were hunting her revenge for her father's relentless campaigns. Max's simple life as a freight pilot had turned into a dangerous mission to protect a princess from forces that wanted her captured, or worse. He didn't know how he'd gotten here, but one thing was certain: he wouldn't let her go. The rust bucket wasn't much to look at, her patchwork of dents, rust, and duct tape, but to Max Donovan, she was home. Now, she was a lifeline. The pirate ship that had snatched Erin was a fortress heavily armed, bristling with weapons, and guarded by hardened fighters. But Max had a plan, using every trick from his years as a mechanic and pilot. He rigged a daring approach through asteroid fields, masking his movements behind electromagnetic storms. The chase was on. Max studied the pirate cruiser's layout, from stolen schematics, memorizing corridors, airlocks, and security measures. He ran simulations in his mind, preparing for the fight ahead. When the moment came, Max slipped inside the cruiser's docking bay, barely squeezing through closing bulkheads. Alarms blared as he sealed his airlock and drew his plasma cutter and ancient pistol, primitive, but deadly and quiet. Stealth was his ally. One by one, he disabled guards, sabotaged systems, and unleashed a virus that crippled the pirate ship's defenses. Finally, he reached the detention block. There she was, Zarin, bruised, battered, but alive. Her golden eyes opened as he cut her restraints. "Max," she whispered. "I'm here," he said, lifting her gently. The ship shook violently as Max led her through corridors filled with smoke and chaos. Systems failed, gravity flickered, and the pirate scrambled to contain the damage. But Max didn't stop, his hands steady despite the danger. At last, they reached the docking bay. Max strapped Erin into the co-pilot seat, injecting stimulants to keep her alive. The rust bucket shot from the pirate ship as it erupted behind them, secondary explosions lighting the darkness. Max didn't look back. "I love you," he whispered, to her unconscious form. "I love you too," Erin breathed, her eyes fluttering open. Their fight had only just begun. Nexus Station's medical bay was a marvel of technology, gleaming and sterile. Max paced like a caged animal while doctors worked tirelessly to save Erin. The weight of the past battles and sacrifices bore down on him. Finally, a surgeon emerged, expression carefully neutral. "She's stable. Internal bleeding stopped. Recovery will be long, but she's remarkably resilient." Max exhaled, relief flooding him. Erin awoke in the quiet of the recovery room. Her purple skin glowed softly, her golden eyes bright and alert. She reached for Max's hand. "You came back?" "I promised." Their bond, once a sacred law, a duty, had transformed into something deeper. Love, choice, devotion. "I release you from the bond," Erin whispered, "but only because I want to be with you, Net, out of obligation." Max kissed her hand, voice thick with emotion. "I want the same. You're not just a princess or a duty. You're my partner, my heart." Years passed. The rust bucket was replaced by sleek diplomatic vessels, Their family grew a daughter with shimmering silver gold hair, a son with his father's warm tan and her purple undertones. They traveled the stars together, ambassadors of two worlds, building bridges forged not just in politics, but in love. Max often marveled at how a broken-down freight pilot became a hero, not through glory or conquest, but by choosing to Zavand love an alien princess who saw the best in him. Their story wasn't just about survival. It was about hope, partnership, and the endless possibilities when two souls choose each other beyond laws and worlds. And in the vastness of space, their love was the brightest star of all.